Now the connection is good. Let's continue talking about Duterte.
Yeah, the interesting thing with Duterte's arrest is that originally President Marcos ran with the support of Rodrigo Duterte. In fact, Rodrigo Duterte's daughter, Sara Duterte, is the vice president. In the Philippines, the president and the vice president are separately elected, but they did run together as a team. Unfortunately for the Dutertes, the relationship with President Marcos has frayed over the past couple of years, and now they are political enemies rather than being political friends. And this might be one factor in why Duterte was sent so quickly to The Hague.
Well, when we consider all of these, this is probably going to take a while to adapt. So let's talk about what are the broader implications of this case for the international justice and the ICC's role in prosecuting leaders accused of human rights violations. And as we know, that the country was out of ICC, so that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the ICC is still really trying to establish its authority around the world, and we see there's a lot of pushback, certainly by major countries, against the authority of the ICC. They're not even part of it. Countries like the United States, for example, is not a signatory to the Rome Statute. It is not a member of the ICC, and it resists the authority, the jurisdiction of the ICC. And people, frankly, thought the Philippines would reject it as well, because President Marcos originally said he was not going to cooperate with the ICC. But eventually he changed his mind, and we see, again, with the ending of the strong relationship with the Duterte family, President Marcos is now willing to cooperate with the ICC. From the ICC perspective, this is a good thing. They want more countries to cooperate. They want people who are facing arrest warrants to be apprehended and be sent to the ICC for trial. So for the ICC, this is a positive development, although it has to be emphasized that the Philippines did pull itself out of the ICC, and it's very possible that Rodrigo Duterte is going to challenge the ICC's jurisdiction over him as the legal process begins.
And let's talk about Taiwan as well, because how is Taiwan's government likely to respond to China's renewed warnings? Because this is a situation that takes over now. And what impact could this have on cross-strait relations?
Taiwan is trying to figure out what the intentions of the new Trump administration are. So the Trump administration has taken several actions to show its support for Taiwan, and that's not a surprise. Secretary of State Rubio, when he was a senator, was a big supporter of Taiwan. So there have been a few actions by the State Department during the month and a half or so that the Trump administration has been in office to demonstrate U.S. support for Taiwan. And of course, this makes China very angry. They don't like public displays of support for Taiwan by any country, but especially by the United States of America. So I think it's fair to say that tensions are high between China and Taiwan. The two sides continue not to talk to each other, and they haven't talked to each other officially since 2016. And that looks set to continue, as does China's military exercises or military incursions in the air and the water around Taiwan.
Well, given the current geopolitical climate, how might international actors, particularly the U.S., influence the situation between China and Taiwan? And do you think that U.S. is hence already a little bit occupied with whatever the things that is happening in the world with Russia and Ukraine and their initiatives, and what is going on in Gaza with Israel as well?
Certainly, President Trump is preoccupied with issues like the ones you mentioned, whether that's Ukraine, Russia, or Israel, Hamas in Gaza, or other issues. And of course, President Trump is also busy with domestic political issues. That's why the role of the team is so important. When I say the team, I'm referring to the foreign policy and defense policy areas of the Trump administration. So the key people would be Secretary of State Rubio, National Security Advisor Waltz, and also Secretary of Defense Hegseth. Now, these people, again, they're very pro-Taiwan. They're very skeptical. Some will call them hardliners when it comes to China. So to the extent that President Trump gives them latitude to make Taiwan policy, I think we're going to see a lot of actions that demonstrate support for Taiwan from people like Rubio, National Security Advisor Waltz, or Defense Secretary Hegseth. So unless Trump gets personally involved and says, don't do supportive things for Taiwan, I think we're going to see a lot of supportive actions for Taiwan from the Trump administration.
Well, Ross, thank you so much for your answers. Thank you so much for joining us here on A News.
Thank you.
Now let's continue with our news.